Let me be completely honest here. I'm not going to talk about rotten skunk assholes, shitload of fucks, buffalo diarrhea, or even LJN. That's mainly because I'm not the angry video game nerd, but I will talk about the game that was recently released starring him, simply called the Angry Video Game Nerd Adventures. It's a complete throwback to the challenging days of the 8-bit era, and the game itself is a parody of many others, most notably games that the AVGN has covered in its own reviews. The story is simple and mocks Action 52's notorious cheat 'em end game. The nerd and his friends will sitting around playing a shitty game, and somehow they all get sucked into it. It's up to the nerd to travel through 9 levels while saving his friends and defeating the bosses. Saving his friends is actually pretty optional, but is pretty helpful in the long run. Much like the entire game, the names of the stages are based on the things the nerd might say during his reviews, and each are cloning other games. Assholevania is of course the Castlevania clone. Happy Candy Fun Time is a parody of My Little Pony. Future Fuckballs 2010 mimics Street Fighter 2010's futuristic steampunk world and Mega Man's Cutsman stage. Blizzard of Balls is the ice stage. Life Arts Consumed is of course Hell. Dungeon and Dickholes is pretty obvious. Beat It and Eat It is a stage based off the Atari porn episode from the AVGN, and because of this I can't show you it without slapping the age restriction requirement on this video. Finally, Boo Haunted House is a mockery of your generic Halloween based game. And if you've ever seen any of the AVG episodes, you might have recalled a nerd saying that this should be the title of Nightmare on Elm Street for NES. Okay, I'm getting too far away from the subject at hand, so let me try keeping my AVGN references to a minimum. In any case, these stages can be completed in any order. You can quit at any time from the pause menu, and then you keep whatever lives you had. You might have noticed that on a normal difficulty, you start off with 30 lives. These will drain quickly though, especially since there's so many obstacles that will kill you in one hit. There are a few scared extra life power-ups, but they are rare and often too dangerous to even bother grabbing. Thankfully, there's plenty of checkpoints littered throughout the stages, all in the form of the nerd's Nintoaster. You might be asking, what the fuck is a Nintoaster? Well, it's exactly as it sounds. Anyway, the game itself plays very similarly to an early Mega Man game. The nerd's primary attack is the NES Zapper. You may notice that he's wielding the Power Glove as well, but sadly, it's never actually used for anything. You can also find the SNES Super Scope, which kills everything in one blast, but the downside is that once you get hit, it's gone. There will probably be times where you grab it, but are never actually able to use it. There's other power-ups too, such as the useless rocks that arc over everything, the glitch gremlin that will freeze everything for a few seconds, and the Mecha Christ that will destroy everything on the screen. These power-ups are rare, but usually when you get them, they're needed. I've already told you that you can rescue the nerd's friends, so let me talk about them for a bit. First off is the guitar guy, who is in his skeleton form and hiding behind the couch. He moves a bit faster than the nerd, but he slides around a bit because of it. His biggest advantage is that he can attack through objects, whereas the nerd cannot. Because of this, he's more useful than the other pals. Next up is Mike, the guy who often assists the nerd in his reviews, and also draws the title cards. His special ability is that he can see secret blocks that may get destroyed. His disadvantage is his range. He's wielding a Jedi sword. It's not nearly as powerful as it should be, and I found myself to rarely use Mike. Finally, you get the Bullshit Man, famous for his You Know What's Bullshit segments on Cinemassacre. He can't jump as high as the others, but can double jump. In my opinion, this is completely useless. Why have a double jump if that double jump is going to give you the same height as a regular jump from the others? His attack is to throw piles of crap, which has a limited range and are thrown almost like you throw a frisbee. Again, I hardly use Bullshit Man. One of the other things you might have noticed is that whenever you die, you get taken to a screen where it gives you a very death message, along with something the nerd might say. After playing it, I think the quotes are pretty much ad-libbed, meaning that there's certain phrases that get thrown together to form the quote. They're amusing at first, but they do get old after a while, and eventually you'll probably just start smashing the button to continue. You also get a few that don't make any sense at all. In keeping with the nerd's constant anger, when you get game over, you get a screen that comes pretty much directly from the Friday the 13th episode. Of course, you do have continuous depending on the difficulty, but you do have to start the stage you are playing over. Also, upon completing a level, you get a screen that tallies your deaths and time, along with a congratulations message, and a picture of the nerd flipping you off. So how does the game actually play? As I said, it's close to Mega Man, where a nerd travels across the stages firing his zapper. You do get a basic tutorial stage, where you can kill your fairy helper, aptly named Nagy. Many of the enemies are references to the other video games, and occasionally the nerd will spit out a line or two stating an opinion, which is typically just in the form of how shitty the game he's stuck in is. In addition to the basic platforming, There's a few side-scrolling shooter stages that mimic Silver Surfer. Thankfully, they're not nearly as difficult, and I'm sad to say there's no graphic of the nerd acting like Silver Surfer when he dies on the board. These surfboard sections don't occur often, but they're there to give you a change of pace. Let's talk about the bosses quick. Castlevania is guarded by Dr. Jekyll / Mr. Hyde. Hyde can't be damaged, but after a few hops he'll turn into the vulnerable Jekyll. The boss for Happy Candy Fun Time is a psychotic unicorn bent on happiness. The pattern is very easy to figure out, and is probably the easiest boss of the game. The boss for Future Fuckballs 2010 is that annoying face from the Atari Jaguar game, Cybermorph. This one is actually another one that's pretty easy, but needs to be done on the surfboard. Next is Blizzard of Balls 3 goes to Christmas past, present, and future. Let it be noted that before you get to these three, you need to defeat Santa and ride his bloody corpse down a hill, all while dodging evil presents and reindeer. Once you do hit the bottom, you'll slide into a wall of spikes and fight the ghosts. They can be tricky, as they can only be damaged when they join up for an attack. Thy farts consumed is end when you face Satan, or the beast that the nerd often uses for a satanic reference. Is it me, or do you get reminded of Evil Dead when you read the beast saying, "I'll swallow your soul"? Maybe it's just because I just watched the first two movies the other day. Anyway, gravity doesn't really exist during this battle since you're falling, and your main task is to dodge both the boss and the instant kill blocks floating up towards you. Dungeons and Dickholes features a huge dragon that really looks like it was the run of the litter. Do dragons have litters? Because if so, this one must be the black sheep of the family. Anyway, Beat and Eat It ends with the General Custard wearing nothing but his cowboy hat, boots, and ascot. Again, I'm not going to be able to show you this level with an age restriction limit. Maybe someday in the near future I'll throw a playthrough of that level up on my YouTube channel. In any case, the next and final stage ends with Bimmy and Jimmy. But, more accurately, Freddy Krueger's hand and Jason Voorhees. What makes this battle difficult is the fact that you really can't see too much. In fact, this is one of my biggest complaints about the AVGN adventures. There's many parts, especially in Boo Haunted House and the final stage, where your vision is limited to about a foot in every direction. This normally isn't a problem, but when there's so many pitfalls and instant kill blocks everywhere, it can be unnecessarily maddening to navigate them. Yes, I know, I have 30 lives, but that's only on the normal difficulty. Later difficulties only give you a few lives and limited continues. There's even an insane difficulty level where you only get one life to finish the entire game. Fuck that. It took me about 200 plus lives before I finally finished it. And to top it off, my fucking recorder didn't capture the ending of the final battle. Fuck! Now, I could play through the final stage again, but fuck that. The final boss, Fred Fucks, is the game programmer. He's the one tormenting the nerd by pulling him into the shitty game to prove that it's not easy for him to make a bad game, let alone play it. He starts off easy enough, just flying around a basic figure 8 shooting fireballs at you, but about a quarter damage in, he brings out his balls. Again, it's not too bad once you get the pattern down. The problem is that the spike balls block the nerd's shots, so the guitar dude is best here. Right about when the life meter is halfway through, he starts crapping on you, claiming irritable bowels. You know, this just wouldn't be an AVGN game if it didn't feature multiple enemies trying to shit on you. In any case, it gets harder to hit Fred Fucks, but the furthest platforms might give you some protection if you're lucky. Finally, when there's only a quarter of a bar left, just about a few more spike balls to fight you. If you can manage to defeat them, seriously sit back and feel like you've accomplished something, because this game is not easy. One of the things that does make it even better is the music. It's a perfect homage to the Mega Man games, which in my opinion boasts some of the best 8-bit music available. The songs are catchy and fit the mood portrayed by the level perfectly. Many of the boss themes are based on the AVGN theme song, so you might find yourself getting that in your head as well. One last note before I wrap this up. Even though the game is AVGN Adventures, there's cameos lurking around. You can find characters like Pat the NES Punk and Angry Joe, among others. I have yet to find most of them though. I think I covered everything that needs to be covered. AVGN Adventures is a near perfect homage to classic games, but perhaps too much so. It would have been nice to see some more original content, instead of just parodies of other games, but who knows, maybe that'll come for a sequel. Be forewarned if you do attempt to play it, because it is hard as shit. It should also go without saying that the game really isn't geared towards kids, as the language of some of the subject matter can be quite mature at times. Overall though, it's a pretty interesting game to take a look at, especially if you're into the AVGN like I am. If you're not and you attempt to play this, you might be a bit lost or not enjoy it as much. Final score? 8 out of 10. This is Reaper. Shit, Michael.